11 years ago, I was starring in a new play in this theatre in the West End. After just 3 performances, I walked out. In the early hours of the next morning, I came down from my flat in central London to this lane. I went into my garage, sealed the door with a duvet I brought, and got into my car.
Sat there for at least, I think, 2 hours in the car, my hands on the ignition key. It was a suicide attempt, not a cry for help.
I drove to the south coast and took a ferry to Europe.
I just knew I couldn't be at home. I couldn't be in London. I couldn't be in England. I really believed that I would never come back to England. Runaway Stephen Fry broke his silence last night to reveal the torture he's been suffering. They all are worried that I've committed suicide. That's the awful thing.
But after a week, I secretly returned to England to this hospital and to a doctor telling me that I was bipolar. I'd never heard the word before, but for the first time, at the age of 37, I had a diagnosis that explained the massive highs and miserable lows I've lived with all my life.
There's no doubt that I do have extremes of mood that are greater than just about anybody else I know.
The psychiatrist in the hospital recommended I take a long break. I came here to America, and for months I saw a therapist and walked up and down this beach. My mind was full of questions. Am I now mad? How have I got this illness? Could it have been prevented? Can I be cured of it? Since then, I've discovered just how serious it is to have bipolarity, or manic depression, as it's also called. 4 million others in the UK have it, and many of the seriously ill end up killing themselves. So I've decided to speak out about my mental illness, and it is a mental illness. I want to talk to others who have it about what triggered it in them and took over their lives, and I want to find out answers to what still worries me. Was I diagnosed correctly, and am I getting better or worse? Let's start with a remark made by a Hollywood producer to me. You don't need to be gay or Jewish to get on here, just bipolar. He meant, of course, larger than life, furiously energetic, endlessly creative. Manic types do well in Hollywood, in all of show business for that matter. Euphoric highs and crippling lows seem to go with the territory and don't attract the stigma found everywhere else. Since my own diagnosis, I've kept working and found ways to cope. And I've also kept quiet about my condition. Now I want to speak out, to fight the stigma, and to give a clearer picture of a mental illness most people know little about. For a start, how do you know you have it? I have an old friend here in Los Angeles who's been very open about his depression, but I know he appears in most people's eyes to be clearly manic.
It's Stephen.
Does this make him a manic depressive?
Can you press the button, Stephen? Very sorry. Then,
Good point.
a walking man in Los Angeles.
Good to see you, mate.
Hey, bud, how are you?
I'm very well, thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome. Come in.
Thank you. Well,
You know they stare and point at people that walk out here.
I thought I was going to be arrested at any moment. I wondered whether you felt this sense of being in a cycle of bipolarity, in which people swing into a state of mania. The symptoms are that you can't sleep and that you are silly, and some people literally take their clothes off and dance on tables.
See,
People tidy the houses.
I didn't have that. I was just diagnosed as being dead upset.
So it was depression. Now that... See?
It wasn't. He hasn't got manic depression. He's just dead upset.
Most people who've seen, footage of you in a tour or something would say that you do have up phases, that you are one of the most manically up, cheerful, to the point of being silly and larky.
But that's, that's a persona. It's just like any character that you would act out. I think my first drug of choice, if you like, was probably fantasy. Fantasising about being an actor or being a singer, going to the moon or whatever. And I don't know if that was to escape a depression. I was just sad that my career obviously went like that, and my self-esteem and my depression went like that. With me, how my depression manifested itself was that I'd stopped going out. I lost the cog to socialise. Having said that, I could get up in front of 35,000, 40,000 people and go, look at me, I'm ace.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I get off stage again, I'd get in the tour coach and go back to my bedroom and pull the duvet over my eyes.
I knew Robbie quite well in that period after he left Take That, when how he dealt with his depression was the classic method of alcohol and drugs. Now he's clearly found the cure for his moods.
Coke gave me a twitch, and drink just made me ill. So all the props that I had to be removed, just had to be. There was like 13 months without me drinking or taking a drug, and I felt worse than when I was drinking and taking drugs. It was horrible. And then I thought, well, that's madness. Let's go and try these pill things that people have been talking about. Then took antidepressants after 13 months and went, I'm all right now. SARS don't need to come back. And I haven't been back since, really.
Time, Gene.
To be manic depressive doesn't mean, as many people think, that you're just really, really depressed. Robbie and I clearly have depression in common, but the difference between us is that he's manic only as a performer. I'm manic in real life, and it's a difference that I now know is crucial to a correct diagnosis. To show you what it means to be manic takes just a half-hour drive from Robbie's to the home of an actress-writer I've known for years as the poster child of manic depression.
Visiting my old friend Carrie Fisher, known to the world as Princess Leia in the Star Wars movies. She's always been, she's on the edge of sanity. She's, constantly not mad enough to be committed, but not sane enough to lead much of a normal life.
When you're galloping along at a great speed, it is better than any drug that you could ever take. God, if you will, is saving you parking spots. Songs are being played on the radio for you. You're just so enthusiastic about everyone. And everyone must be enthusiastic about you. And it's just, come along. I've got a great idea. I've got this unbelievable idea. Let's go to India.
Exactly.
Then you'll just start going way too fast. And you're faster than anyone that you're around, and that's not fun. You're on the phone far too long, you're not getting any sleep. Nothing is going fast enough for you. Come on, keep up with me, you guys, come on. And even if it's not true that you're more talented when you're manic, you feel like you are.
Yeah, which is half the battle.
I am standing on rocks, flaming speeches to the world. You know, I have a lot to say. I have messages from deep space, in fact. And I stayed awake for 6 days, and I did lose my mind. This friend of mine says to me, does your doctor know that you behave this way? What do you mean? Then we sort of have an argument, and I cry for 4 hours. And I'm unable to stop. And I know there's something wrong with that. I call this doctor, and I go in, and I see her, You know, we're talking and I'm laughing and I'm spinning around in chairs. And the doctor says,
That's the diagnosis. That's bipolar. That's manic depression.
Carrie had years of living with such extreme moods and feelings before she got that diagnosis.
She's got it bad, you know. It's not a rock star, film star accessory. It's a real mental condition that she has to live with every single day of her life. She's on medication. You have to picture what she'd be like if she weren't.
A medical expert told me almost half of those suffering from manic depression aren't diagnosed at all. Frightens me to think of people having symptoms like Carrie and not knowing what's wrong with them. I'm told it's an illness that's surprisingly difficult to pin down to achieve a diagnosis. Now, I'm diagnosed bipolar, and bipolarity is a disease of the brain. So a brain scan will surely reveal a sign of what I have. The research being carried out here at the Maudsley Hospital in South London compares normal brains with bipolar ones like mine.
So we're coming right to the front of the brain.
Oh my goodness, that's
okay?
my
And
answer,
so
yes.
just grabbing the front of the nose, and then we'll scroll back through.
That's my face,
And you
virtually.
did the chubby cheeks there as
My
well.
little chubby cheeks. But by looking at a sample of slices from a brain, you can't tell, or can you, whether someone is bipolar or...
When it comes to bipolar, looking at a single subject's structural scan would not give you
No.
diagnostic information at this stage.
Is there anything you see in my brain that leads you to the view that I am bipolar?
No, I think it's the very
Right,
short answer to
yeah.
that.
So there is as yet no brain test that can diagnose bipolarity. But I've been hearing talk of a bipolar gene. To find out more, I've come to have my DNA tested as part of the world's largest study of bipolarity, based here at Cardiff University. They have 2,000 subjects already, and now for 2001.
Do I get my Wally Pop now?
So, this is your DNA.
My DNA, thank you so much. Oh, it's so attractive. I knew it would be. It's beautiful, isn't it? So which way now?
Okay, so we'll go up to look at the sequenome. You know it must be good just from the name.
It's
don't you?
fantastic.
Yeah.
Welcome to the sequenome, Mr.
Yeah.
Bond.
What we have found is that if you simply compared people with bipolar disorder against people without controls, we don't actually see any overall difference. Unfortunately, the press, you know, as you know, they'll publish reports saying the bipolar gene or, you know, whatever. And that's completely incorrect. There'll be many genes that are involved in bipolarity.